Today on the WEInvested podcast, we have with us Kate Waltman, CPA, and she is the CEO and founder of Taxes with Kate. Kate is a financial professional, author, speaker, and board member. She is also a licensed CPA in New York and has experience in Australia and New Zealand with the specialization in crypto and NFTs. Kate is a 2019 40 Under 40 award recipient and a 2021 Global Outnext LGBT plus Leadership Award recipient, among many other awards. Kate, how are you doing today?
Wesley, I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me, and I'm so excited to chat today.
Yes, I'm very excited for this conversation too, because I feel like you're doing some really interesting things in the financial services space as well as the NFT space. But before we get started, would you mind letting the people know where they can find you on social media and the internet?
Sure. So I think at the moment, the social media platform that I'm investing most time in is Twitter. So on Twitter, I'm at KP Waltman. I do also use Instagram. That's more of a personal platform for me. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Kate Waltman. We'll start putting out some publications on LinkedIn fairly regularly going forward. And then my website is taxeswithkate.com.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's just kind of start from the beginning. One of the interesting things that I saw is that you're a licensed CPA in New York, but you also have experience in Australia and New Zealand. So that just, leads me to ask, where did you grow up?
Yeah, great question. So I did grow up here in Albany, New York, where I'm recording from today. And I spent the first 23 years of my life in upstate New York. I did a stint in Syracuse, New York, when I was going to college out there as well, but have lived abroad in both Japan and England, and most recently was living in New Zealand until about a month ago. Actually, I was there for almost 2 years and just came back to New York a few weeks back. Just the right time to catch up with family and spend a little time in the States. So yeah, very much so a global traveler, but always will have roots here in upstate New York. It's where I'll call home.
For sure. No, that's awesome. And so, like out of the different places that you've lived, which location would you say impacted your life the most or benefited you the most, I guess?
Mm, that's a great question. Out of Japan and New Zealand, they both actually have impacted my life in a huge way. Most recently in New Zealand, I met my now fiance, Linda. So that was obviously a very poignant life moment for me. But when I lived in Japan, that was back in 2013. I was newly 23 at the time, and I moved there because I needed to find some clarity, and I was sort of lacking a lot of direction in my life. My dad had just passed away um, recently from cancer, and so I was a bit. I was battling depression. I was feeling a bit lost and didn't have a lot of confidence, and went to Japan. It was a place that I had always wanted to spend some time. It's always been a culture that I've admired, and I'd studied the language a bit, and going there and really forcing myself to step outside my comfort zone. I didn't know anyone there. I moved there by myself and navigated the year, and I think I came out of that year much more self-aware person, and it really set me, I think, on the right path. As an entrepreneur as well, I've sort of taken, since returning from Japan is when my entrepreneurial ventures sort of started to really take form. And so I think if I think back about which experience had an impact on the trajectory of my life, I think Japan is probably a more foundational piece for me. But certainly New Zealand was always is always going to be a place that has special memories, and I'll continue to go back to, of course.
No, that's amazing. And so, you kind of spoke about moving to Japan on your own, not knowing anyone. Was it ever intimidating for you, that transition?
Oh, incredibly so. I mean, as I mentioned, I'd studied the language a little bit, but Wesley, I got there and I thought I was ready to, start having conversations with people. And you just don't know, right? Until you land somewhere, how culturally different and how different your use of the language is from a classroom context to, landing in Tokyo airport all of a sudden and having to find a train to get to your new apartment that's somewhere in Shinjuku. It's like, what, so it was intimidating every single day, which was part of that, self-growth process that I went through. Was every day, just becoming mentally tough. Okay, I'm going to get through whatever obstacle, if it's opening a bank account today, if it's finding my way on the train to get to work today, if it's, whatever the new obstacle was, it was, constantly pushing me, and having just overcome that day by day by day. After a year, I felt like I had built my mental toughness back up again. And, like I mentioned earlier, that was when I went to Japan. I was at rock bottom. I didn't have that mental toughness anymore after seeing my dad go through cancer, and I felt, just really defeated. And so I needed to build that back up. And I think the only way to do that is to put yourself in situations like that where you're forced to exercise mental toughness day in, day out, get through it, and you build confidence slowly over time.
No, that's awesome. And you kind of put some things in perspective for me as well. Just hearing something that we take for granted, as simple as like opening a bank account or trying to
Yep.
read signs to get to your, in a completely different language. So that really says a lot about who you are as a person, and just being resourceful. Which I guess, if we fast forward a little bit, and that led to or helped lead to your entrepreneurial spirit. So, would you mind talking a little bit more about Taxes with Kate and how that came about?
Sure, sure, absolutely. So, as you know, I'm a CPA by trade. So I have an accounting degree, and I'm a licensed CPA in New York. And so that's been my career path, which I've enjoyed very much. Have taken a couple of different roles within the accounting field throughout my career, but most recently had been focusing on corporate tax advisory with one of the big four accounting firms, and enjoyed that work very much. But when I recognized that the crypto and NFT space, uh, I'm never usually the person that is sort of out in front learning about new technology or stumbling on new opportunities. And so I guess for me, I just felt so lucky that I was introduced to this space early enough to recognize that at the date of us filming this, November 2021, right, we are of a very, very small subset of the population that is even entertaining conversations about the topic of NFTs. And so when I recognized how big the potential is for this space to impact the world and how early we were, I decided that I can't let an opportunity like this pass and not try to um, make this the direction of my career, and take the opportunity to potentially shape the way that the space becomes for the line of tax and consulting work that sort of has been the bread and butter of my career thus far. And so so that was sort of the motivation behind my decision to now focus on this. And that's how Taxes with Kate started. It was just me deciding that, maybe if I obtain this specialized knowledge, I could be of service to a lot of the NFT investors, creators, crypto investors, in the space that I've come to know over the last year, being in the space. And everyone has been so welcoming and kind to me in this community. And the tax and consulting work is a piece that I can then return to the community and say, well, here's a skill set that I have. We can all, we will all need, and we can all, share resources here. So let me share some tax advice for you all. But quickly, I realized that this was something that not many CPAs had invested the time and energy, into researching and specializing in. And so within a matter of months, it became very apparent that the demand for this type of tax and consulting work was actually going to be much greater than what an individual person would have the capacity to deliver. So very quickly built a team behind me. So Taxes with Kate is actually much more than just Kate at this point. And we'll likely be doing a rebrand come the new year. But that's a little bit about the genesis of how it started. Hope that answers your question. We can definitely dive more into it though.
No, and I think that's truly remarkable, to be a trailblazer in this space, because like you said, there are not a lot of services based around this industry right now. And it's still a huge learning curve for, most people. Like you said, a lot of people haven't even heard of it. And the people actually in the space, we still have a lot of learning to do. But what do you think kind of sparked that curiosity, to actually want to dive into it? What sparked that interest for you?
If I'm being really honest with you, Wesley, it's financial freedom. That was the impetus for me, because, I don't come from a wealthy background. I don't have, the Rolodex of connections that some people start their lives with. I don't, for me, it's always been, I graduated from school with $100,000 of student loan debt. I'm like so many of those everyday Americans who, financial freedom has been a lofty goal that's sort of out there at some point in the future. And when I recognized that crypto and, Bitcoin in particular, a lot of the thesis behind, these crypto projects was pointing in the direction of let's make financial freedom more attainable for the everyday person. Because when you think about investing in the stock market, initial IPOs, et cetera, have always historically been afforded to the people with the special connections and folks who already have wealth, and money makes money, right? But in the crypto space, there's this idea that we can sort of even the playing field. We can give everyone the same opportunity. Anyone can buy one Satoshi of Bitcoin, and you can throw mere dollars right at the crypto space and have the same potential as everyone else to obtain the same return on your money and change your financial future. And so that was the curiosity that called me into the space. And it was sort of a very, very steep rabbit hole, as I'm sure you know. After that, it's like once you sort of get a taste for it, and then you realize, wow, there's actually so much more going on in this space. And then from crypto, became NFTs. And so that was a very, very slippery slope. Whoop, down I went, and never looked back, really.
For sure. And it, just kind of listening to your response to your answers, it seems like that, equality, financial equality, and the ability for everybody to make money is something that's, really important to you, and really something that you stand for.
100%, 100%. And that's the mission, or I like to call it the North Star, behind Taxes with Kate is, while I love the work that I do now, getting to help people in the crypto and NFT space as a consultant and, navigating their taxes, I genuinely love that work because I'm really passionate about this space and all the nuance that the crypto and NFT space is throwing at us. I think it's really exciting. But at the end of the day, my North Star really is, I feel like it's my mission to be out getting the information and making sure that everyone who comes from a marginalized background has the opportunity and accessibility to change their financial destiny by getting involved in crypto and NFT space. If I could, I would spend all my time just doing that, just educating people and getting the word out there and getting the information, because I do feel it's just a matter of bridging the knowledge gap. Because as soon as someone learns about the opportunity, it's a no-brainer. People just need the education, and they just need the tools to be able to set up the infrastructure to get a crypto wallet, learn enough about the technology and what the potential is for the space to start throwing $10 a week, into crypto. And then before you know it, someone who's been living in generational poverty has changed the entire trajectory of their future and their kids' future and their kids' kids' future because they got that piece of information. And so while my day job is Taxes with Kate, my goal is to get that company to a place where I can then start to shift some more focus of my time on the mission, the North Star side of the business. Yeah.
For sure. No, and that's incredible. And, you speak about getting that knowledge out and that information out to people to just kind of help them understand what it is and how impactful it could be. Would you consider yourself a content creator or influencer in a way as well?
I got to be honest with you, Wesley. I am the worst content creator on the planet because I have virtually no artistic ability whatsoever. I'm an accountant through and through. I'm good with numbers. I can public speak, but in terms of content creation, I am the least creative person in the world. So I am fortunate that there are, people on my team who are more creative minded and can sort of help facilitate that because you do need that in order to build a platform, right? So it can't be just my accounting brain behind the brand of this because we need to sort of build a platform so that we can then get the information out there, right? So but that's not a skill set that I have, unfortunately.
No, and I think the information that you're giving is very valuable, and that's content, great content, actually some of the best content right now, and in the future is just informative. So I would definitely consider you a content creator in my eyes.
Well, it's such a compliment, Wesley. I really appreciate that. I'm doing my best, just trying to get as much of the basic information on the taxes, especially out there in digestible infographics or, content that is quick and easy and gives a really solid takeaway. So hopefully, yeah, we've got some more content around the corner and just trying to, again, get as much of the basics out there so that people can start to implement and don't get left behind,
Exactly. And that kind of leads to my next question. Why is it important for business owners and investors to create a strong relationship with their CPA?
Well, I think a lot of people know in business how to make money. There are plenty of successful entrepreneurs out there who can figure out how to make money. But your CPA is the one who's going to help you keep the money and not give too much money away in taxes, not perhaps unknowingly spend too much money, have poor budgeting, poor asset management. And so while you could be the best entrepreneur in the world and get all the money coming in the door, if you have poor investment strategies, poor asset management, poor tax planning, poor budgeting, and all your money is then leaking out, you're going to end up keeping 50% of what you bring in the door, and that's a disaster. And so your relationship with your CPA enables you to keep maximum dollars from what you bring in.
For sure. And I know, I couldn't agree with that more, but when I first kind of got started in business, I just thought, man, I'll sit down and do my taxes myself. But, that was a horrible decision. So, meeting up with the CPA or finding someone to kind of help guide you in that space, is necessary. Like, it's very vital in order to stay successful, in order to, like you said, keep all of your money in your pocket instead of paying it out to the government in taxes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really, your CPA is just a trusted advisor, right? If you're trying to scale your business, your relationship with your CPA is going to make sure that you're able to scale from a revenue perspective, and then also just like I said, from an asset-based perspective. And so, yeah, it is one of those relationships where you're bringing someone onto your team, right? Even if your relationship with your CPA is an hour or two a month on retainer, it's a trusted strategic advisor, and use it to your full advantage, because if you've got aspirations to grow, couldn't be a better person to be strategizing with and having those conversations with. And certainly takes the stress off doing your taxes yourself. That shouldn't be a burden on you. You should be focused on your business. So
Exactly. And so yeah, if we could just take it back to NFTs for a moment. Um, that's actually how I first stumbled across your page. I think I searched. I was on Twitter searching and kind of looking around, and I came across your page and just started looking and thought it was the coolest thing ever. But you know, you mentioned that your first NFT purchase was from the Women in Weapons project, which is a great project with a powerful mission. But
Mhm.
you know, what did you like about? What did you personally like about that project that impacted you strongly enough to want to actually invest in it and support it?
Yes, so that was my very first NFT project. It'll always hold a special place in my heart for sure. And I chose Women in Weapons, and I guess was so captivated by it because I heard Sarah, the artist and co-founder of the project, speak on Twitter in Twitter Spaces. Great place to do your research on NFTs, by the way, Twitter Spaces. But I heard Sarah speak, and she was talking about the inspiration behind the project and the artwork, and she described the women that are depicted in her art are all holding these like very serious weapons like knives, nunchucks, these very like serious weapons. And she said she thinks of it actually as more metaphorical, like women are the weapons that we bear are our internal strengths, are the qualities about us that make us strong. And so when I sort of put that together, I realized that what she was doing is she's just trying to showcase the different strengths that women have, and she's depicting it by showing these women holding these powerful weapons. And she said she set the artwork in kind of like a 1960s theme, because back in that era, women were much more limited in their ability to have career aspirations, and their women were very much so downplaying their strengths at that time. And so I just love the concept. I think Sarah is very committed to the long-term success of the project, which made me feel good about investing and holding the project for long term, which is something I definitely value. I'm not in the NFT flip game by any stretch. And so I think, and then she got picked up by Gary Vee shortly thereafter, and I think that sort of helped put the project on the map. And so I do think it's definitely one to keep an eye on, and I feel will have some great long-term potential.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, so you know, another thing that I guess I kind of wanted to point out and mention is that you have a great presence on social media, which is like I mentioned earlier, how I found you and found out about you and kind of some things that you believe in. But how would you say that social media has helped to benefit or impact your business?
Thank you so much for saying that, Wesley. I really mean it. It's not, like I said, it's not a skill set that I particularly have. I'm really just trying to sort of add value to the space. And I'm so glad that folks in the NFT space in particular have found the content, helpful. And so thank you. That really means a lot to me. And I think the answer to that question is that social media is important for your business to the extent that your business values an established platform, or having sort of an authoritative voice in a given space. If you can accomplish that in a different way, if your brand really just thrives on brand recognition, like Coca-Cola or something, and you just need to have your brand everywhere, that's a different strategy. Maybe you don't need social media so much. I mean, Coke might have an Instagram page, but I've never bothered to follow it. It's less important, right? So, but I think to the extent that your brand or your services, will benefit from having a platform and being sort of an authoritative voice in a space, then social media at the moment we're in now with technology is the number one place where you can create that platform for yourself. Maybe Web3 in the metaverse, there'll be other ways to sort of to develop that, but it's to be seen. So for me, being a service-based business, it is really important to, to be interacting with that specific community. And so just identified that Twitter was the primary social media platform used by folks in the NFT space in particular. And so I think if you can just identify the platform that your audience is most, commonly using, and then do your best to just add value, just give back, give back. I know Gary Vee preaches all the time, just give, 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 give. And that's how you build trust. And I think it's true. It really does work. I think if you just give of your time, give of your knowledge, then people will follow you, will respect you, will want to hear more. So I think that is true.
For sure. No, and I agree with that 1000%. And I feel like your curiosity is kind of is something that's special that has led you to be able to travel these different places and see things that you I guess maybe never imagined of seeing before, or actually going to live in Japan or going to live in Australia and New Zealand. And even becoming an entrepreneur, I feel like it's all kind of stemmed from curiosity. But as far as entrepreneurship, is that an interest or a skill set that you were born with, or is that something that developed over time?
I've heard a lot of people, sort of go both ways with this topic, but I'm here to tell you it is, at least in my case, not something I was born with at all. I would have to get my mom or my brother in here to verify this for you, to explain to you how painfully shy of a child I was. Painfully shy. I remember being in maybe 5th grade and having to stand up in front of the class and give a 5-minute little book report presentation or something. And I remember physically shaking, in my chair. I could think of nothing worse than standing up in front of a room and speaking for 30 seconds about something, And so to me, the idea of being an entrepreneur was never in my mind as a kid. I never dreamed of, going out, starting my own business and putting myself out there in front of people, because I just, by nature, and entrepreneurship requires you to put yourself out there. You are the face of the business. You are the business development. And so that was never something that I considered. And so if I was born with it, it was buried so far deep. It took me 20 years to uncover. But I think I say that as a glimmer of hope for anyone, because if you're not born with it, and I think you are, then anyone can cultivate it. Because if I did, then literally anyone can. And so if you're sitting home and you have a dream, or if you have a business idea you've wanted to start, or you want to change the world in some capacity, but you don't feel like you were born with the right skill set, like, let this be all the hope you need to hear, because this little dose of optimism, you definitely don't need to feel like you weren't born with the right skill set, because I'm proof you can cultivate whatever skill set you need.
No, that's really amazing. And something that is really fascinating that you mentioned earlier is that Taxes with Kate is growing. You're adding people to the team. And that's something that's always interesting to me, is just to see how young entrepreneurs can bring others along to help build their vision and build out that mission. So, what would you say is the importance of having a good team, and how did you focus on building yours?
Oh, a good team is the make or break for your business, period. If your business requires more than just you, then your team makes or breaks the success of your business. If your business is solely relying on yourself, you're a sole proprietor, you don't need to focus on a team, and then it's only up to you to make or break the success of your business. But If you have aspirations that are, bigger than yourself and you want to grow your business, you have to grow your team. And the people you bring on board have to be cohesive and have to be aligned. And if you don't concentrate on the people that you bring on board aligning with your ultimate North Star, like we talked about earlier, and if there's not a solid foundation of trust, your business has no chance at success. There can't be any room for selfish energy on a team. Trust is the most important foundation. So when I was building my team, the first people that I turned to were the people in my life that I trust the most, within a certain parameter of like skill set ish that I needed, right? But I didn't turn to skill set first. I know plenty of very, very, very smart CPAs. I've worked at, multiple CPA firms over the years, and at every single firm I've worked for have met people that are smarter than me, CPAs that have more experience than I do in various areas. And so if my first priority was to find skill set first, my options would be endless. I could go through my list, go through my LinkedIn connections, but that's not the most important quality for a good team member, especially in a startup. And so I had to prioritize trust first. Who do I trust? Who is going to be aligned with my North Star? And then do they have, enough of the skill set that we can build upon so that we can, move forward together? And so that's how I've gone about building my team. And I think, that would certainly be my recommendation, because skills are something that you can build and you can teach and, someone can acquire, but trust and values, are, I would argue, impossible to teach. And so you have to prioritize those.
Man, as I'm like sitting here having this conversation with you and just listening to you talk it and looking over your accomplishments, I really get like a sense of fearlessness from you. I think that's like probably the best way to put it, because just going overseas, one, is a huge step. And then, being an entrepreneur and putting yourself out there is another step. And even doing it in a field like such as accounting, which is male dominated industry, and now these NFTs, I mean, if we're being honest, it's pretty much male dominated.
Totally male dominated. Yeah.
Yeah. But for you to like put yourself out there and be willing to be that voice, and hearing how you talk about hiring and building your own team, like, it's pretty amazing to hear that. And you seem really young. So where does that fearlessness come from?
Wesley, you're so in tune. Like, you're one of the best interviewers I've ever talked to. And I have to tell you that honestly, because you're right. I am fearless. And I am fearless for one reason. And that's because I've seen the scariest thing, period. You're gonna get me choked up. Like, I've seen my dad go through brain cancer and die, and I know what it's like to have life taken too soon. And there's nothing scarier than that to me. And so it doesn't matter what business challenge, rejection, whatever comes my way, I'm not scared of it. There's nothing scarier than that. And so I do have a fearless nature about me. And moving abroad, what's the worst that's going to happen to me? I'm going to, be lost in some train station in Tokyo. I have to find a dictionary and talk to a taxi driver, whatever. I just think people have a renewed perspective for, what is trivial, when you are faced with life and death circumstances. And so I was just very lucky to be taught that lesson at a fairly young age. I was 21, at the time when I was helping my dad through that. And ever since then, I've just sort of never lost that perspective of, my mom and brother and I, we sort of have this, code word we say to each other whenever things, get hard. We just say, we've already been through the worst. Doesn't get worse. Like whatever comes, it's fine, And I don't think you need to have a loved one, suffer through cancer to gain that perspective. I think you can obtain a perspective like that in many different ways. And so while I wouldn't wish the experience specifically on anyone, I do think I would encourage everyone to put themselves in difficult situations so that you can develop a perspective like that, to where failing at a business venture is the least scary thing you could possibly imagine. I mean, that's the perspective you need to get to a place where if your business flops, that's laughable. Like that's not something you need to be afraid of. You tried, you need to have that kind of perspective, because if you're healthy, if the people that you love are okay, and you've got a team supporting you and you've got a good mission, there's no downside. You'll just learn. So I am fearless when it comes to business. It doesn't matter if there's, actually, I don't know. I think there's one other CPA in this space that I've identified, and much respect for her, but it's like, I don't care if I'm one of two or one of 1,000, I'm still going to go give it my shot. And I would totally encourage you to do the same. And everyone, it doesn't matter what background you come from, you just need the right perspective and you can do anything.
So who are some of the people that you would say you look to for inspiration, if any at all?
The people that I look to for inspiration depends on the type of sort of motivation that I need. When I was thinking about starting this tax and consulting business, I did watch a lot of Gary Vee videos, because his entrepreneurial spirit is unparalleled, in my opinion. He's just the tried and true entrepreneur. And while I have a sort of innate belief that I am going to change the world and want to change the world, it doesn't necessarily have to be entrepreneurial for me, right? Whereas for him, it's like business is his thing. And so when I was, going through the pros and cons and deciding if I felt this is something I really want to put all the chips on the table for and go for it, I was watching a lot of Gary Vee. But I think as an athlete, I grew up, playing sports and was an athlete in college. And so having an athletic background, I do turn to a lot of sort of athletic motivation. And I'm a big fan of watching CrossFit. So my sort of another secret motivator of mine is I'll throw on like a clip of CrossFit Games motivation, and we'll sort of get the grit I need to push through late night working or researching, whatever it is. So I would say that it's less about like, I definitely have specific people in my life that I turn to, trusted advisors and team members, but most of them they're on my team already, right? So we're already in daily contact for the most part. And so when I do need that bit of external motivation, it's usually in one of those, forms, just that last little bit of grit that I need to push through something or make a decision.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. So how would you define success as an entrepreneur?
For me, success is, circling back to our initial topic, was sort of financial freedom. And for me, it's of course financial freedom for me and my team and those I love, but it's extended to financial freedom for marginalized communities that I'm really striving to reach and impact. And so that is how I'm going to measure success, is the number of people that are sort of lifted into financial freedom through this line of work.
What would you say is the most important reason for your current success?
This might sound you know, I don't want this to sound, you know what, I'll just say it. It's it's self-belief, it's self-confidence, period. Uh, a lot of people will tell you, you know, name X third party exterior force something, right? But it's not. It is without question this deep innate belief, you know, in myself that I can make it, that I can be successful. If you don't have that, it doesn't matter how many times other people tell you you're going to make it, you're going to be, you can do it, you're going to be fine. It has to be here because it has to be inside 95% of the time. And then maybe that 5%, you know, when you need to turn to someone and say, are we going to do that? We got this, right? But 95% of it's got to be from right here. And so I just, I have to give you the honest answer. And it is because I know deep down inside me that like that I can do this and I can be successful and I can change change the world on a scale that I believe that I can. You know, it is inside you, period.
So when do you think you had that realization?
I've sounds really strange just to say out loud, but I've just sort of known that for a long time that like there's something about my life that I just have to I have to do something that is of greater scale than just living a quote, you know, normal life. And I've just each year, you know, tried to sort of live my life accordingly and pursue whatever at the time I felt was that thing that was bigger than me. And so at in some, you know, points in my life, it looked like moving to Japan completely alone and going through, you know, going through that experience and seeing how it would shape me. In other instances, it looked like starting a business like right now, you know, seeing an opportunity and being brave enough to put all the chips on the table and go for it. So but it's, yeah, it's always been driven by this sort of deep feeling that, yeah, I know that when I'm 90, if I don't have a life that really made a difference in the world, that it's not going to sit right with me. And maybe not everyone feels that, you know, and so I don't want people to think if you don't feel that there's something wrong. I've just always felt that itching at me. And so something that you just can't ignore and sort of have to pursue. Yeah.
How would you like for people to remember you and your company?
I I hope that people remember the North Star mission rather than the, you know, yeah, of course, I want to be known as, you know, the premier tax and consulting service, second to none financial, you know, consulting advice, second to none tax services. But what I hope stands out is the North Star, the fact that, you know, myself, my team, proceeds from our company are going towards lifting people, you know, out of poverty, giving people financial literacy, helping people to not be left behind by this tidal wave of crypto and NFT technology that's in the next, in my opinion, year is really going to become a lot more mainstream. And people who are currently living in generational poverty, lacking basic financial literacy, aside from crypto and NFT stuff, if this wave of crypto and NFT technology passes and they get left behind, I think it's pretty self-explanatory that the wealth gap is only going to go, you know, if it's a mile wide now, it's going to be 100 miles wide a year from now. And so that's what I want to be remembered for, is bringing in as many people as possible, you know, along for the crypto and NFT ride as possible, so that gap isn't the case for everyone, at least the people that I'm able to touch, you know.
What does the future of taxes with Kate look like to you?
Future's big, man. The future's big. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a little rebrand, hopefully for the new year, because it has become much more than just taxes with Kate, right? It's not just me anymore, and so that's a name that's not reflective of who we are anymore. And so we're going to do a rebrand. And I think, that's also just sort of reflective of how much the space has grown and how much community there is, and how much need I feel there will be in 2022, especially for tax and consulting work. And so we'll be, growing the team. Absolutely. We have big aspirations to really carve out our space, within this, NFT crypto industry. And, we're a women-led organization, as you mentioned. And so just going to try to make 2022 the year we really make a splash. I think it's still very early, but it's also going to be a very crucial year for the NFT and crypto space. Mainstream adoption is around the corner, and I think 2022 is the year to establish your foundation and put your flag in the ground and say we are an authority in this space. And so that's the primary objective for early 2022. Sort of establish our position, trusted advisors, ready to go to work and scale as quick as possible.
That's awesome, Kate. This has been amazing. I think you're a very remarkable person, and you're doing some incredible things. And I'm really, man, and you're really humble. That's something that's super cool to me too. Like you're just really humble and focused and determined. And by spreading this information and knowledge out about NFTs and crypto, and even the importance of having a relationship with your CPA, I think it'll really impact a lot of people, the work that you're doing. So I want to say thank you for taking the time and sitting down with us. But before we get out of here, at the end of every podcast, we like to play a rapid fire question game where I ask you 3 questions. So if you're willing to play, I'll go ahead and ask.
Oh, I'm definitely ready to play. Let's do it.
Okay, question number 1. Where's your favorite place to travel?
Mount Cook National Park, New Zealand.
Why?
I am a mountains person through and through, and they're the most beautiful mountains I've ever seen in my life. And I can't wait to go back. Most beautiful hiking, just spectacular.
That's awesome. Question number 2. What song represents your life the most?
Has to be a favorite song of all time, which is The Greatest Show by Hugh Jackman and Keala Settle, I believe is her name. It's from the Greatest Showman soundtrack. And if you haven't seen that movie, gotta see it. Gotta see it. Okay, the Greatest Show, though.
I'm gonna make sure I check that out. And look, final question. What's an amazing thing that you did that no one was around to see?
So I'll say this because no one in the NFT crypto space was around to see. And I guess that's sort of the audience that will be, investing, your podcast, that's sort of the audience we'll be speaking to, right? So and no one in that world, may know about this, and that's fine. But back 2016, I want to say, I started a charity, a 501c3 nonprofit called Step Up Moment. And I was at the time working and volunteering, spending a lot of time on the south side of Syracuse, New York, which is the number 1 city in the nation for concentrated poverty among Blacks and Latinos. Number one. And so really severe levels of generational poverty. And I had gone to college in Syracuse, had been living there for 6-8 years at that point, and spent a lot of time on the south side and just built relationships with a lot of people from that community that touched my life in a really big way, and started a charity with the goal being to help elevate people out of poverty from a health perspective. And so I realized that if you are struggling with poverty or homelessness, there are literally dozens of factors associated with the fact that you're living in poverty that distract you from prioritizing your health. You're looking for a job, you got to find daycare for your kids, your car broke down, your rent's overdue, on and on and on. Priorities that are, way more of an on fire moment than prioritizing your health. And so I realized that that's why the highest levels of obesity and preventable disease are in communities where there's high concentrations of poverty, which is a problem, because if you're just struggling with this laundry list of other complications, the last thing you need is to be feeling sick or going to the hospital because you're in poor health. So our charity provided free exercise classes for folks in that community where there are no gyms that, you can't, not that anyone in that community can afford a gym membership anyway, but there are no gyms that make an effort to go down and open in those communities, right? So we provided free exercise classes at local homeless shelters and community centers. And for every 5 workouts someone attended, they earned a $50 gift card to buy healthy groceries at a local supermarket. And we would help them go grocery shopping and teach them about nutrition. And that was my life for like 4 years. We opened a second branch in Schenectady, which is another small city near Albany. And that was incredible. And that is work that I'm still incredibly passionate about. And, might not be something that, anyone in my new sort of career, right, with NFTs and crypto ever like knows about, hears about, and that's totally fine. But that is work that I will always fuel and participate in, no matter where my career sort of takes me. And I do have aspirations to grow and scale that program and that work so that it can be in every major city across America, because every community needs a program like that so that people at least have the opportunity to change their health destiny in the same way that everyone deserves the opportunity to change their financial destiny, with financial literacy. So I appreciate you asking that question, because it's something I really do enjoy sharing about and is really important to me. And as I said before, you're just such a great interviewer, and I appreciate that all of your questions, hit at the heart of why someone does what they do. And I feel like that's so important. So thank you.
No, thank you, Kate. And, like I mentioned earlier, man, you're just an incredible person who really cares about the people and really wants to give back and really wants to help out. And that's something, especially in the NFT space, that can be kind of be forgotten about, because it's all about who can, make the most sometimes.
Right.
But just but just to bring that balance to the spaces, I feel like it's very necessary and something that we need to keep that humanity part of it still intact. So just thank you for your time today, and thank you for all the work that you're doing, and I know that you'll continue to do, and I can't wait to see keep watching your journey. Like I'm a fan.
We should definitely stay in touch, and I can't wait to see where the podcast goes, and I'm going to get caught up on all the previous episodes, and just so grateful we connected, and really would love to stay in touch.
Thank you.